Oz fans across the world gather every year to Oz conventions and festivals across the nation. We're going to take you to two of them. The International Wizard of Oz Club has been serving fans of Oz across the world since the club's founding in the 1950s. One of their yearly conventions takes place in Pacific Grove, California, named after the Winkies in the Oz books. They call it the Winky Convention. We were able to talk to several people about the Oz Club and the conventions, and they were able to share some memories with us. Let's have a look at what they have to say, shall we?
Hi everybody, I'm Angelica Carpenter. I'm the president of the International Wizard of Oz Club. We are a club that celebrates Oz in every form, the books, movies, video games, whatever. And we have members in all 50 states and some foreign countries. We have about 800 members currently. And what do you do in the International Wizard of Oz Club? Well, a lot of us are book collectors. I'm actually not particularly a book collector, but many of the people are, and especially the people who started the club. Back in 1957, they were a group of teenage and 12-year-old book collectors who decided to form a group of people like themselves who could wheel and deal Oz books and get together and compare notes on their favorite stories. And they instituted a system of regional meetings. So, of course, the meetings took on Ozzy names. The Munchkins met in the East, the Osmopolitans met in the Chicago area, and the Winkies meet in the West, because, of course, if you think about it, the Wicked Witch of the West, that was the country of the Winkies. So, for about 50 years now, the club has continued with these regional conventions. We also had a fantastic national convention in the year 2000 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the book, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. And we're starting a new tradition now of a national convention that's going to move around the country. Started in New York in 2008, Kansas in 2009, and I'm hoping to host one in Fresno in 2010. One of the really fun things for me as president of the Oz Club is I get invited to some very unusual events, and one of them was to see the Munchkins, the actors who played Munchkins in the MGM movie, get a star on Hollywood Boulevard. This was in November of 2007. My husband and I went and stayed at the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel, which was the party headquarters. When we got there, the Munchkins were being interviewed by Good Morning America. Margaret O'Brien came to this party. This was the evening before the star ceremony. And Joey Luft, Judy Garland's son, and Bob Baum, L. Frank Baum's great-grandson, was there, and thousands of other people. And we got to go to Grauman's Chinese Theater, where they had laid out a yellow brick road for the Munchkins to walk on, and there were literally hundreds and hundreds of photographers with video and still cameras flashing and spotlights in the night. It was fantastic. We went into the theater, and the Munchkins all gave their talks. Reinhard Robbie gave his coroner's speech, and then they had a special showing of the Wizard of Oz, and I've probably seen that movie 50 times at least, but I hadn't seen it in a movie theater for a long time, maybe not for 20 or 30 years, and this was a new digitally remastered copy of it. It was amazing, and it was amazing to sit there in that theater with the Munchkins and to sit through the scenes where the Munchkins came on, and whenever we recognized a Munchkin, the whole place just yelled and screamed. So that was really, really fun. Then the next day was the actual star ceremony. My husband and I went out to breakfast, and when we came back to the hotel parking lot, there was a lavender horse with plumes on his head, and he was pulling a flower-bedecked carriage behind him. And this was the horse of a different color, who had been dyed, I understand, with Jell-O, the same as they did it in the movie. So this lavender horse was there, and then the little Munchkins, who are quite elderly in their 80s, and some in their 90s, I think, were escorted out to the carriage, and each one came with an entourage of family and friends. And because they were so small, it was kind of hard for them to get up into the carriage, but eventually they all got up in there, and some of them had on their costumes. And then we were right behind Hollywood High School. And so there was a little marching band from Hollywood High School that led off, playing, of course, We're Off to See the Wizard. And we marched along behind this carriage across the street back to Grauman's Chinese Theater, where they had the wonderful ceremony, and unveiled the star to commemorate not just the surviving Munchkins, I think there were 7 of them there that day, but about 120 little people who were all Munchkins in the movie. So it was a fabulous event. Then we went back to the Hollywood Roosevelt for lunch, where they had the most amazing setting for lunch I ever did see. It had a big backdrop of the Emerald City behind the podium where the Munchkins sat, but the tables were glass tables with white tablecloths that went to the floor, and then under each table there was a green light, so the tables just glowed. And this was in the very room where the first Academy Awards ceremony had ever been held. So it seemed only right that the Munchkins and this wonderful movie were celebrated in that beautiful, glowing green setting. What a good time I had.
Michael Seward is here. Michael has been a longtime collector of Judy Garland gowns and dresses and frequently travels across the country to events, showcasing his display. Judy Garland, Dressings of a Legend.
Hi, I'm Michael Seward, and I own what is known as Judy Garland, the Dressing of a Legend. I've been collecting Judy Garland memorabilia since I was 6 years old, and as I got older, the hobby got a little more out of control and a lot more expensive, and I started collecting gowns that Judy Garland wore throughout her career. I travel around at Judy Garland and Wizard of Oz events where I meet many wonderful fans and other collectors, and it's always fun to share the collection and to see what the gowns that Judy wore mean to so many people, and how it helps to preserve her legacy and introduce new people to other movies other than the Wizard of Oz. The earliest gown I have is from 1941 from Life Begins for Andy Hardy.
Indiana is the home of the annual Wizard of Oz Festival in Chesterton. Now going strong for over 20 years, it is a Oz fan's dream come true. Fans get to meet the Munchkins and a host of amazing Oz celebrities. They even have an annual parade and get to meet characters in costume and check out different Oz-related booths with items for sale. Next up, during our last flight now to Kansas, I'd like to tell you a little bit about the Oz Museum. The Oz Museum is in a small town, much like Dorothy's as depicted in the Oz books. The town is Wamego. Here they house an amazing Oz collection, from collectibles to stand-up figures and more. It's pretty interesting. They even have a gift shop where you can buy a variety of Oz-related items and Oz Museum souvenirs. You have traveled to all around the country today, hearing comments from many people in the Oz community. What does Oz mean to you? To me, I think of it as a one-of-a-kind, timeless classic